Welcome back to our Center for East Turkestan National Interest podcast program. I am Nadira, your host. Today, we are going to take a closer look at the recent visit of Ho Jong-yo to various security and legal institutions in Xinjiang. His statements reinforce the Chinese state's push for social stability and the modernization of the core, which raises serious concerns about the ongoing oppression of Uyghurs and other Turkic people in East Turkestan. What does this mean for those living under such strict control, and how does Bingtuan play into these strategies of control and assimilation? To help us break down these complex issues, we have Mrs. Ruqya Turdush with us again. To provide our listeners with some background, let's start by understanding the organization at the center of our discussion today. Mrs. Ruqya Turdush, could you just briefly explain what Bingtuan is and its role in China's colonial politics in the occupied East Turkestan?
Thank you for having me. This is a very important topic and this is a very good question because Bingtuan is one of the specific evidence for China's colonialism in East Turkestan. The Chinese government always say that People's Republic of China peacefully liberated East Turkestan in 1949. In fact, Bingtuan is the proof that they did not peacefully annex East Turkestan, but invaded with armed force. Bingtuan is Chinese name. In English, it's a Xinjiang Production and Construction Corps. In 1949, Chinese General Wang Zhen invaded East Turkestan with 70,000 troops from PLA, People's Liberation Army of China. And soon, between 1954 and 1966, China again brought 170,000 more Han Chinese soldiers. But this time they did not bring from formal PLA, People's Liberation Army troops. They brought the troops under the name of armed workers and called Xinjiang Production Construction Corps. In Chinese, they call Xinjiang 生产建设兵团. So its short name is Bingtuan. Chinese government propagate that these armed workers help development of Xinjiang. In reality, it represents major strategic deployment of Chinese armed forces in East Turkestan. Based on the statistics of 2016, population of these armed forces is 2.8 million. It's 12% of total population of East Turkestan. And each district or region heavily populated by Uyghurs, surrounded by Bingtuan soldiers in East Turkestan today.
Thank you for that explanation, Mrs. Ruqya Turdush. Now, moving on to Ho Jong-yo's recent remarks. He mentioned the need to firmly focus on the overall goal of social stability and long-term peace and security. How do the policies emphasized by Ho Jong-yo related to genocide against the Uyghur population in East Turkestan?
Chinese government strictly following Deng Xiaoping's doctrine that the Chinese government, the Communist Party, and the army must be combined to control Xinjiang. So they continuously increased power and the population of Bingtuan. Those Bingtuans have their own kingdom in East Turkestan. They have own administration, education, science, judiciary, and the jails. In 2018, the Chinese government invested 2.25 billion yuan to build 7 new prison projects to extend the prisons in Bingtuan, according to Chinese state media. And those prisons filled with Uyghurs when the Chinese government rounded up 1 to 3 million Uyghurs for so-called re-education camps. What Jong-yu said here in this news is not something new, but something that they want to give more power to Bingtuan and modernize these civilian armed forces parallel to modernization of PLA. Since Bingtuan is specifically established in East Turkestan, not any other place of China or not any other Chinese colony, not even Tibet, not even Inner Mongolia, we can see clearly that they are specifically targeting Uyghur and other Turkic people for oppression. So empowering and modernizing Bingtuan means intensifying oppression and the genocide against Uyghurs and other Turks in East Turkestan. We also can see that the Chinese government's further genocidal intent from this modernization and expansion of Bingtuan.
Thanks for your insights. My next question is, what specific roles and responsibilities does Bingtuan have in the implementation of China's genocidal policies against Uyghurs and other Turkic people in the occupied East Turkestan?
Bingtuan is one of the important armed forces of China that using to control East Turkestan, which they usually call 4-in-1. 4-in-1 means one is Bingtuan, another one is PLA, and another one is armed police, and another one is ordinary Chinese citizens to help the Bingtuan. According to Chinese media report, I think 2010 or 2016, Bingtuan has 100,000 trained militias. Usually, these trained militias help the Chinese police and the PLA to oppress Uyghurs and other Turkic people in East Turkestan. This is very well known and widely known by the Uyghurs in East Turkestan because each time in East Turkestanian people peacefully uprised against the Chinese government, Bingtuan milita was rapidly deployed and joined armed police and the PLA. It was happened in Gulja massacre in 1997, and it was happened in July 5th incident in 2009. If we look at the international human rights organizations reports, we can see some documents about the Bingtuan too. For example, Amnesty International also estimated that Bingtuan prison 4th division in Gulja imprisoned 3,000 to 5,000 Uyghurs in 1997 when the youths in Gulja peacefully uprised, demand their cultural rights. So that is one of the biggest role of Bingtuan to participate or implement genocide in East Turkestan.
That's very clear, thank you. Now let's discuss the economic aspect. In what ways can the economic activities of Bingtuan be seen as a mechanism for supporting China's genocide in the occupied East Turkestan?
China's Bingtuan in East Turkestan has their own economic affairs, agricultural lands, and they have built solar power, iron, steel, rare minerals, and the coal mining. They have large state-owned enterprises such as cotton production, tomato paste manufacturing, and the sugar manufacturing, and so on. The Uyghurs and other Turkic people were locked up in these manufactories since 2018, forced to work as a slave without getting any payment. It was happening before 2018 too, but it's not in large scale. According to Chinese government statistics, 85% of these Chinese cotton products and 35% of the Chinese tomato products exported from East Turkestan. And 40% the coal mining comes from East Turkestan. And the land of East Turkestan is jointly occupied by both Bingtuan and ethnic Han settlers. Bingtuan expand its territorial kingdom by squeezed Uyghur farmlands, cut their water sources when they start, and that forced Uyghurs abandon their land. And now they gradually, they start to confiscate and forcing Uyghurs to abandon their land and to confiscate their land. In these lands, they have established 8 cities, and they want to establish 20 more cities in 2030. According to Bingtuan media, economic oppression against Uyghurs and other Turks in the region is part of China's genocidal policy, so they can locked up those Uyghur population who lost lands and houses for forced labor and imprisonment in the jails and the prisons with various ridiculous excuses to reduce and clean up Uyghur population. So they can create free land and wealth for themselves. That's how they oppressing Uyghurs economically.
Thank you so much. Today's discussion has highlighted how Bingtuan's policies serve as a tool for systematic oppression in the name of stability and modernization. Thank you again, Mrs. Ruqya Turtush, and for your insights. And thanks to our listeners for joining us. Let's continue to raise awareness and advocate for justice. Until next time, stay informed and take care.